Very, very good evening and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Salescast. And we are going to have an unscripted chat between Nelson Fernandez and me. My name is Manoj Chu. And I hope that you've had a wonderful day selling lots of stuff. And I hope you had a great end of the financial year as well. Sure, many of you hit your numbers and hopefully will do so in the new financial year as well. I'd like to begin this unscripted chat by asking my friend Nelson a very profound question. And the question is around Nelson's sales career and how he became and has become an incredibly successful sales professional. But before I delve into what he's achieved, how he's achieved, etc., I know that he wasn't the sales professional that he is today from day one. I'd love to hear from you, Nelson. How did your story begin?
Thank you, Manoj. And first and foremost, congratulations to both of us on this very debut of our sales cast. I think this is going to be something very powerful that we are bringing up to the sales fraternity, whether as it shows on our screens for beginners or whether it is experienced sales professionals. Let's hang out together, guys, and let's see how we can learn from each other. That's what Manoj and I thought we will kind of create together and bring in all our collective networks, our collective minds together, and then make selling with authenticity something that will be very natural, unlike the bad name that is associated with sales. For sure, both of us are fighting hard to eliminate the bad name associated with the profession, and that's where we are. So thanks for hanging out with us, everyone, and thank you for making it. Like Manoj said, hope you had a great day. If you're in India and those in the US who will be watching this, um, also a big welcome to you as well and to others in the globe. Yeah, Manoj, I think that's a very, very interesting question. I didn't realize that when you said we will have an unscripted conversation, what I was getting into. So it's interesting that you ask this question, Manoj. There you are absolutely right. I was not someone who started off with a sales career. Interestingly, in back then in 1992, when I started off, I was a techie guy. Can you believe that? So I was writing code in mainframe COBOL, and I was a cat at not bragging, but I was a cat at writing those Unix shell scripts sitting in front of those green monitors, those big, large monitors, and I was happily cluttering away all those that wonderful code. And until I met this gentleman, I call him my guru, the first guru I met. That's Peter Theobald. I had actually gone for this interview to write code in this company, which was a distributor of Dr. Solomon's antivirus software. And Peter, over a cup of coffee and a few questions, looked me in the eye and he said, Nelson, the tech job is yours to keep. There's no questions about it. But I am seeing something very unique in in your face. I see that gleam in your eyes. I see a spark. I don't think probably anyone has possibly told you about it, but I personally feel that you will be great at sales. And then, in all my innocence, I was mama's boy then, just about started, right? I told him, Peter, can you give me some few days and let me kind of think over and basically come back to you whether or not this works. And he says, are you kidding me, Nelson? He says, "Can you see all these CVs that are lying on my table? These are CVs of people with 8 years, 12 years, 15 years of hardcore selling experience. And here's a kid sitting in front of me who is a tech geek. And I'm trying to explain to you that you will probably do great in corporate sales. And I can't give you any more than like this end of day to come back to me and say whether it works or not. I have only one opening in my corporate sales team, and I would love to place that offer to you." And then, everything else that happened is right in front of us, Manoj. This fellow went on and then got his first big deal with an MNC, and then another MNC, and then another group company, and then there was no turning back. In 2005 December, Tata Infotech was being acquired by TCS, and that completely changed my fortunes from a small pool to a huge playground, a global stage, and that kind of completely again catapulted me into a different orbit altogether. 32 years later, plus another 3 years since I exited from TCS, here's an entrepreneur wanting to change the face of the sales profession and elevate it to make it a very noble profession and get people to understand how noble it is when you're going and solving problems for a customer. That's what it is, Manoj. Thank you for asking the question. You made me kind of emotional on our very first debut podcast.
Yeah, no, again, very interesting story, Nelson, and I really appreciate your sharing that. I started my career just about a decade before you did. And what I have seen in my experience is that people who come from a good technical background make very, very robust, credible, high integrity salespeople. So I think I'm not surprised to see your meteoric rise in the sales career, because one of the important things in selling is to have tremendous conviction around your value proposition, and I think a good technical background really prepares you for that.
Absolutely, Manoj. And this leads me to ask you, in fact, as since we were talking about from the start of my journey, I thought I should also ask you, as you started your journey, what was your first lesson that stayed with you, Manoj?
Uh, Nelson, actually, my first lesson I learned uh, while we were looking for a job at the end of my engineering degree. We used to have companies who used to come to our campus for hiring, Nelson. As you know, that's been a tradition for many, many decades. And it was campus hiring season. And my colleagues and I, my classmates and I, borrowing ties from each other for our interviews, hoping that by the end of the season we would all come out smelling of roses and have an opportunity at least in our pocket before we took the train back home at the end of our education journey. Now, as it so happened, one of my classmates was a brilliant, brilliant person, much better than me in terms of grades and so on, couldn't land with a job. So it was the last day of the campus hiring season, and I had a few final interviews left, and he had only one final interview where he and I both were shortlisted by this firm which was based in Eastern region. And I graduated in chemical engineering, so it was a firm very much in that industry and in that area. I remember telling my classmate that, look, don't worry, you're going to get this job, and just take a best shot at it. And he said, Manoj, I know that we have both decided, and what I'd like to do is, take one more interview because another firm has just showed up. I've applied for the initial interview. I said, don't worry, I'll hold fort. I'll take the train. I'll go to Calcutta, and I'll, tell the guys that you're going to come, and just hang in there. So as it would happen, I took the train. I landed up went to the office. It was in the evening, 5 o'clock was when we were supposed to show up. They looked at me and said, "Where's your friend?" I said, "Oh, he is coming. He missed the train and he did tell me he'll make it." And I told him that I'll wait for him here. So I went for the first interview, and Nelson, I decided to hash it up because I knew that amongst the other shortlists, I would prefer perhaps to take another firm. They asked me the simplest of questions, and I just didn't answer them right. I felt incredibly proud of myself. That, here I was doing this good deed, trying to help my classmate to land up with a job. The second interview round happened. I goofed it up even more. The third round happened. That was the worst of the three. And they kept asking me, "Hey, your classmate's not turned up. Your classmate's not turned up." I said, "No, he will. I'm going to wait here." I knew they were eager, right? Because they said, "My God, this guy is a real dodo. The other guy, I hope, is going to be much better." Finally, he turned up at around 8:30 in the evening. I told him, "Look, have a glass of water first, relax." I told him, "This is your job. Don't ask me how, but I'm just telling you it is yours. Just be your normal self. Just be cool. Just be calm. Just be quiet. Just say, what they ask. It's not going to be tough." And sure enough, he went to the first round. He came back beaming, smiling. I said, "How did it go?" He said, "Manoj, it went fantastically well." I said, "Good job. Let the next two rounds also go well." And the next two rounds went even better than the first. So guess what? Of course, I knew that I would not get the job and he would. And then by around 10 in the evening, the HR guy came first to me and said, "Manoj, can I have a word with you?" And he was very nice, very polite. Their CEO also came out and said, "Thank you very much. We enjoyed interviewing you, and thank you for showing interest in our firm. But we just want to let you know we've decided to make the offer to your friend." And I was incredibly delighted. I showed that I was deeply disappointed at missing this great opportunity of working with them. In any case, we were delighted. We painted the town red, came back to our college campus, and fast forward, Nelson, 2 years. I was at the Delhi airport. I was going in, and the CEO, who was one of the people who had interviewed me, was coming in. He looked at me and he said, "Manoj Chugh." I said, "Sir, I really applaud your memory." I thought he must remember me as the guy who was the worst interview he had ever interviewed. He smiled at me. We shook hands, and I told him, "Sir, I've decided to join the IT industry. That's where I am today." And he said, "Oh, congratulations. I'm sure you'll do well." And I said, "Best of luck." And as we were going, he said, "By the way, Manoj, just one quick thing before I let you run. That evening, there were two jobs and not one." And he moved on. He knew right from the word get go that I was play acting. And that was a big lesson for me, that don't think you are the smartest person on this planet. And that learning stayed with me. So whether it was people who worked with me, whether it was people who I worked for, I always took it in my stride, the acceptance of the fact that everyone else around me is smarter than me. And so I would say that my journey of learning techniques, behaviors, traits around selling began much before I actually started doing it professionally.
What an incredible story, Manoj. I think it's amazing to hear this and from you, of course. Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
So, Nelson, life takes you on many interesting journeys. And one of the other lessons I think people like you and I have learned is around shifting gears around the importance of ethics. And I know many people in sales think that that's really a hard one to experience and to ensure that you imbibe, and then you inculcate and you deliver on that promise of doing everything ethically. And I know that for you, this is number one. The other day, I was very intrigued to hear your story where you once unknowingly landed into a situation that made you a bit guilty later on. Would you be comfortable in sharing the story with us? And also, what is your advice, given the fact that ethics is something we should hold very dearly to us in the sales profession?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Manoj. But I'm not sure whether okay, let me give it a shot. I'll probably uh, try and see how I can present it in this larger forum. Yes, I think ethics. You're
Sorry for putting
absolutely
you on the
right.
spot, Nelson.
No, no worries, Manoj. By the way, I was just trying to get folks draw their attention on LinkedIn because we had a technical glitch on the initial link. So I was just setting that up, right? That's why you saw me looking a little towards the other side. Okay, so I definitely hold ethical values on the top beyond anything else and before everything else, just as you do, Manoj. And it's no different for me. Uh, I'm a big Dr. Stephen Covey follower, and he obviously teaches the natural principles that you kind of abide by. You don't need any religion, I mean, so to say, right? I mean, if you just follow those natural principles, you're going to do all the right things. And that's the one thing that kind of is so beautiful. Actually, all of them are, but one of those principles, think with the end in mind, is so powerful. What you do today, what you're going to reap is what you're going to reap, right? So that's how it is for me. uh, Unknowingly, actually, Manoj, I was working very closely on an opportunity. So now I told you about the Dr. Solomon's antivirus software distribution company, and then now I'm in the corporate sales role. I'm a newbie. I'm new to sales, but then sales is in my DNA somehow. Don't ask me how. But then, yeah, slowly and steadily, I learned all the lessons the hard way. I was talking to this guy in the procurement team of this company, and I only hope in my excitement I don't blurt out the name of the company, Manoj. That is what I'm really guarding myself from doing accidentally, right? So I was with the procurement folks, and we were talking about protecting their servers, which were about 600 odd servers across India. And we were talking about protecting about 8,000 desktops. Now you know what that means when you quantify it, Manoj. Anybody will salivate on a deal that size. Now, when you talk about antivirus software, obviously people are buying those licenses from you to protect their servers, their entire ecosystem, and not for something that is still in the warehouse. I'll repeat that for you, Manoj. They don't buy antivirus software for boxes which are still not unpacked. So, what I realized was there were at least about 500 desktops which were still lying in a warehouse somewhere in India. I'm not going to say where because people will decipher that and then figure out, oh, okay, that was the company. But that is what hit me later. Though it was unknowingly what happened, it stayed with me as a black spot on my white shirt. And I had taken a vow then that I am going to get into every single detail when I am on a deal, and I'm going to be as truthful as I can. No matter what the customer wants to do, I'm going to say the truth and nothing but the truth, and do what is the right thing to be done for the customer. And so that is the story, really, in short form. Keep it very concise. And I thought it will be good to probably share that story, since you asked, Manoj. Thank you for that.
No, thank you, Nelson. And again, I truly appreciate your maintaining confidentiality because sometimes the sales guys are looking for even the slightest hint of a potential customer who they would be able to approach now that they know what is the ingredient for success. So thank you very much for protecting that piece. And as you know, the government has now got a new act which is going to be in place soon, the DPDP. So we need to protect personal data with all of our might, rightfully so. So that's fantastic.
Meanwhile, we have Raghavendra Rao saying, I had an opportunity to work with the superstar of the IT industry. Now, how do we know, Manoj, whether the Raghavendra is praising you or me or someone else?
Or maybe both of us together. Of course, I know Raghavendra for many years, so I truly appreciate his encouraging us, in this live uh, telecast, if I were to say. So again, thank you very much, Raghavendra. I truly appreciate your feedback, your comments, and they hold a special place in my heart, and certainly after today in Nelson's heart as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, Manoj. Well said, Manoj. One thing I was thinking about what should I ask you, and as usual, you are always busy in some meeting or on some review, and when you call me, I am on some review. So I know we have been playing hide and seek. But one thing that I thought while I was thinking, कि अभी क्या पूछूंगा आज? What will I ask, Manoj? One thing that I wanted to ask was, tell me one secret, Manoj, that you want to share from your career on a sure short way of bringing home a deal.
Nelson, that's the question and that's the enigma. I think if that was known, the mystery, the excitement would get out of selling, right? So some part of it we need to let it remain a mystery, an art, a science, a learning, which each one of us can hone and improve on and create, our own methodology and our own ingredients to success. But one thing that I can certainly share, in all honesty, is that there's one sure shot foundational idea, if well imbibed, and we spoke about it a few minutes ago as well, which can help you to succeed. And I'll share another true story with you. This was from my early years in selling. And I remember this was an organization in Eastern India in Calcutta at that time. It was a cold call that I made. And in those days, as you know, Nelson, all of us as sales guys made our own cold calls. We didn't have inside sales and this, that, and the other. And during my cold calls, I went into this building. I walked to the reception. I said that I belong to such and such company. And that lady said, "What do you do?" I said, "We make computers." She said, I know who you have come to meet." I said, "Wow, first time I walked into an organization, and the receptionist knows what's a computer." And she said, "Yeah, because lots of guys selling computers are walking in and they're going and meeting, my boss here." So I said, "Can I meet him?" She said, "Give me your card and I'll get you a meeting." I waited 30 minutes. We started. That was the start of the journey. So for 2 years, I continuously went into this account. I used to meet this person 3 times a week. I used to prepare for the calls, talk about the features, the benefits, the value that would be derived from what our product had to offer. And I would rehearse. Okay, today I'm going to talk about this feature. This feature will give this benefit. This benefit will result in this value for the customer. One day after 2 years, when I walked in, the customer said, "Manoj, I just want to congratulate you. We've decided to give the deal to you." Now, Nelson, in sales school, they have taught us that the moment the customer confirms their purchase order on you, you're supposed to get up, shake hands, turn around 180 degrees, and walk out of the door. Because you don't want the customer to start thinking thereafter whether they made the right decision or not. Now,
Absolutely.
I did the most counterintuitive thing. I decided to sit there and ask for a cup of tea. Now, that meant that, and the risk in that is because now that you know you have won the deal, your guard is down, the customer starts having a conversation, and all of a sudden, a lot of unwritten commitments start getting made. Oh, Manoj, I'm sure you'll do this for me. Yeah, yeah, of course. Oh, I'm sure, instead of 1 year, you can make it 2 years warranty. At that time, your guard is down, you won the deal, and you start agreeing to stuff which otherwise, through the normal sales cycle, you would not do. Now, what interestingly happened was I did what I was taught not to do. And I asked the customer the question. I said, Sir, I'd like to know, why did you decide in my favor? Because I thought if I get this secret mantra, Nelson, then I will repeat this mantra across all the rest of my accounts. And then for the rest of my life, life is easy because now I know what I need to do to win the business. The customer looked at me, pondered, thought, reflected, and said, Manoj, frankly, for the 2 years that you came, I didn't quite understand much about what you were trying to say. He said, because I'm not a science student. And the purchase I'm making is a highly technical product. Now, I was crestfallen, frankly, Nelson, because I used to prepare very hard for the sales calls. And I thought I was doing a brilliant job. I thought I was cracking it each time I walked out. And here the customer saying, Look, I didn't understand much of what you were doing or what you were saying.
Interesting.
He said, what I was looking for was, who is the person who has the most confidence about the product, the firm, its capabilities, and its services. And I knew for a fact that nobody can play act for 2 years. He said, that's all I was looking at. And he said that amongst all the sales guys who came, you were the one where, I felt that you could be the person who would be able to help us meet our needs. You have so much conviction. That stayed with me. That knowing your product, knowing your offering, knowing your solution, knowing your capabilities, being confident about them, having conviction, then will allow you to close. So I think that's incredibly important. Knowledge, which gives you confidence, which builds conviction, will help you to close. And that's something which I think stands true irrespective of which firm, which area, which product, solution, technology, etc., you are selling in the marketplace. The rest, of course, is art and science, but this is fundamental.
No,
And
wonderful, Manoj.
yeah,
Wonderful.
so that was what it is. But Nelson,
So
I'd like to ask you, because one
before
of the
that,
things, yeah,
before
go
that,
ahead, please.
Manoj, um, it's very interesting actually, because this one habit of asking a customer, I mean a prospect turned customer, call it a bad habit or a good habit, somehow I had also inculcated the same practice of asking the customer, hey, look, I mean, many customers do business with us, and there are different customers who award the deal to us for different reasons. What's yours? And that would sometimes bring out a lot of inputs and insights, also including some of the things that we did not do right, but then the other things played well for us in our favor, if which they were not present in that situation, would have probably lowered our marks when looked at from the lens for other competitors who were probably in the fray. So it's wonderful for me to know that you have also been religiously following this practice, and it's such a powerful practice. And I keep telling salespeople, make sure you ask the customer why you gave the deal to us. Do not shy away from asking why. Of course, when you lose, Manoj, you and I know, I mean, through our decades of experience, you probably will never hear the truth from the customer. Probably you will never hear the exact truth from the customer. They'll either say it was price, which is actually all bullshit, because if we can deliver value, there's no such thing as price comparison. But yeah, I mean, I thought I'll just share that a little bit.
No, no, very well said. Very well said, Nelson. In fact, Raghvendra sent me a comment saying it is the trust that was built through this journey over 2 years, which played that important role as well. And I think that that's where the trust comes from. this guy really knows his stuff. He knows what he's talking about. He's a professional, and so on and so forth. So I think that again becomes, an important piece of the entire engagement process. Nelson, I want to bring you into a thread which I started with in my last story, which was around cold calling. Now, in those days, each one of us cold called. And I know that you personally put a lot of emphasis on prospecting religiously. I think that was just the era generation of sales that we came from, that we perhaps had no options. And so we kind of had to learn this. In today's day and age, what is your view on prospecting? And who do you think should be doing prospecting every passing day? Because I hear lots of sales guys say, oh, that's not my job, that's inside sales, that's some BDR, there is some SDR, there are lots of acronyms. And only when I get some qualified lead am I going to get out of my chair and am I going to go do something about it. Love to hear your views on prospecting, and up to what level should sales guys be doing prospecting, and should people stop prospecting, in fact, after some time.
Yeah, I think Manoj, you hit the nail, right? I mean, absolutely. I put in a lot of emphasis on prospecting because what kind of a sales guy are you if you want prospect and make sure that you always have a full and healthy pipeline? Because as we say, one eye on this quarter and another eye on the next 2 quarters, and that's how it goes. Because especially when people are working in organizations where the deal cycles are slightly longish. Some of them would
Agreed.
be in the
Agreed.
services 3, 4, 6 months.
Right.
You have to have that right up your sleeve. And I also hear, Manoj, a lot of people, senior people, I have I have interacted with, and I'm sure you would have also experienced this a lot. Somehow we kind of seem to develop the wings of a A380. I mean, as we grow in the ladder, people seem to say, "Hey, that's not my job," as you rightly alluded to, Manoj, and that's very sad for me to hear from some of the folks who call themselves salespeople, because I personally think it is an excuse, Manoj, for the fact that people have not really been trained on how to make a cold call. I mean, today it is digital world, and you and I spoke last time when we were hanging out about in the digital world, it's not 80/20, probably it's a 99/1 ratio that works. So I mean, all the more, I mean, we got to be extremely careful. We need to know if we are going to pick up the phone and talk, what is it that we're going to talk. I'm taking a little step back, okay, Manoj, for whatever it is worth. I think because people are not trained and they are not coached on how they should go about with a call, people are scared that if they make a call to some unknown person, uh, someone is going to slam the phone down on them within the next 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and that's extremely disturbing, right? I mean, it kind of rattles the nerves out of your brains. So uh, I think people tend to pass it on to what we have today as a luxury, which is those inside sales teams or the BDRs or the SDRs, as they're called in differently in different organizations. I personally believe that, Manoj, even in especially in the larger organizations, there is more structure. There's a VP of sales, and I mean the entire hierarchy down. In smaller organizations, I've even offered guidance to say that the founders should also be doing prospecting, because especially for the smaller setups, the startup scale ups, every single moment of time is important, and we got to make sure that we are using our time well. I say to founders that you have to connect with your connections, and your initial deals are going to come from those warm connections. Don't expect any miracles happening in the form of some completely unknown people who don't even know you. So your anchor customers will always come from your warm connects, and for the others, you got to be prospecting, you got to be making those calls. And that's what I do at Big Leaves. I mean, we coach around the entire construct of baseline selling. What exactly do you do? When do you call? And if you call, what should you exactly say, without scripting it, of course, because you need to internalize it. And then it's a choice of words you make that's going to make people fall in love with you. They're going to be wanting to talk to you rather than slamming the phone down on you. So there are a lot of techniques, Manoj, that we work on with salespeople, tell them how it is done. And then I think once they get the comfort, slowly and steadily, I hope everyone. So I think there is no specific bunch of people in roles in sales who should be doing prospecting. I think across the board, everyone should say that. Manoj, you would have probably heard some CEOs say, I know that chairman or I know that CEO, but I don't want to reach out to him for business. I want you to go and make that call. Why should that be the case? I mean, I think it's just plainly shying away, right? So I think everyone, right, from this sales guy on the ground to the leadership teams, should be involved. And like I say, everyone in the organization is in sales. You might be in finance, you might be in legal, you might be in procurement. Ultimately, whatever you do, you're doing it for your customers, for your end customers. So everyone is in sales technically.
Everyone is in sales, and everyone should be prospecting, and everyone should be closing deals as well. Both are very important, to make sure that we are able to put bread on the table. Yeah, very well said, Nelson.
Thank you, Manoj. Another thing that probably comes to mind, and I should seize the moment while I have you on the show, is tell me one important trait or behavior that you believe everyone in sales must inculcate.
It's very interesting. You use two words. You use the word trait, and you use the word behavior. And my answer to both of them is one single word, and that word is humility. And you have to have that trait, and you must exhibit that behavior. Now, sometimes people are just humble by nature, and sometimes when they are not, they need to inculcate the behavior of being humble, which means that when you are in front of the customer, be respectful. When you're in front of the customer, listen intently. When you're in front of the customer, make sure that you're able to understand their need and then offer a solution which is the right fit for their need, rather than looking at your price list and saying, how can I sell the most expensive mousetrap to this customer? And what story should I tell them to do so? So I think my answer to the trait and the behavior is the same, which is humility. In my many years in selling and running businesses, I have found that the most complex problems can be solved if you are humble. I will never forget, Nelson, this true story when there was this incredibly irritated, unhappy customer that I and my boss had to go and stand and kneel in front of. The moment we walked in, the customer just lambasted us. And he kept calling us names, kept saying 10,000 things to us. And it went on this monologue for an hour and a half or two. And I was young and I was getting irritated. And I was like, in my mind, I was kind of saying, can I box this guy? And how the hell, is he saying all of this? I mean, he called us everything: scum of the earth, useless guys, cheats, liars, thieves. You took my money and blah, blah, blah. Didn't do this, didn't do that. Went on, had a big list, kept reading out, 30 things that we hadn't done and all. I was looking at my boss and I was wondering as to when he's going to get irritated and then I'm going to join him. None of that happened. He listened quietly. He had his pen and paper in front, kept taking notes, showed respect to the customer, seriously, kind of jotted down everything the customer was saying. And the customer was watching this, that look, here is the guy's boss. He's empathetic. He wants to do something. He's trying to understand, trying to assimilate, trying to learn. At the end of about 1.5 or 2 hours, my boss asked the customer one question. Imagine this after 2 hours of monologue. And he said, Mr. Customer, is there anything at all that we have done right? You have told us everything that we have done wrong. Is there anything at all that we have done right? And then the customer kind of paused, right? I mean, he put brakes, right? Because he was on this rampage. And he said, yeah, this one specific engineer of yours, he was very good, very smart, very intelligent. I found that, he did a good job. Then he took that string and started the discussion. So what exactly did you think that he did right? So do you think that we hire right people? So do you think as an organization, we mean well for our customers by hiring such right people? Do you think in our heart we have the right intent? And so he then took the customer on this journey of positivity. And at the end of it, about 3.5 hours later, we had a very clear, amicable understanding in terms of what are the next steps. And the customer had a lot of more confidence that, look, these guys will do whatever is required. Yes, stuff has happened. That's the past. We can't rewind. We can't do it. And this was only possible because my boss exhibited the trait called humility. So rather than turning around and pointing fingers at the customer and said, but your site was not ready and your electrical, this thing was not right and your people didn't turn up or your guys didn't tell us the needs properly, and get into that finger pointing and get into a pissing match. None of that. So I think humility as a trait, and if you don't have it, imbibe it as a behavior and exhibit to the customer whenever you get that opportunity. So I'd say that that's something which I'd like everyone and anyone in sales to remember. It goes a long way. And I'm sure that in our future unscripted episodes, I'll get the opportunity of sharing, and I promise that, of how humility helped me to convert an opportunity of a business which we were making losses for 10 years into profit in 12 months. But that's how the power of humility can help to change trajectory of businesses. But that story for another time, Nelson.
No, absolutely. I mean, such a beautiful story, Manoj. I think it's just so amazing to learn about the humility, right? And it's so powerful, the power that it holds. And I think a lot of people I see need to really imbibe humility. Many people think that they have arrived and they can do whatever they wish they can. And I think as simple as uh, people, I've seen some people the way they behave with the security guard at the entrance of the building, and then it's all profile based. I mean, if you're wearing a jacket, I'll just put a smile at you, and if then I'm in the corner office, then I'm all over you. And I keep telling people that it's important to have this humility factor. It's something that will pay off in ways that you don't realize. And yeah, so beautiful to hear this from you, Manoj. Thank you so much, Manoj.
My pleasure.
Anything else that you felt you should share with our audiences? Is our first debut sales cast, as we say, right? And any other thoughts you want to share, and so that we have some excitement building up for our future episodes. Manoj, what should audiences look forward to on this show? Hang out with us.
Yeah, Nelson, I think as people hang out with us, one of the things I'd like to encourage them is they shouldn't hesitate to ask questions that they may have around specific sales situations that they are facing. Of course, respect the fact that please don't blurt out the name of the customer. There are lots of guys who will be watching this offline or online, so you don't want to kind of make your prospect base public, if you will. But any specific situations which they are facing in terms of sales, I think it'll be wonderful to find ways in which they could use this channel of ours to perhaps get some additional thoughts and ideas. Not that we may have answers to every question, but I think it's important that we at least provide that opportunity. One other comment I'd like to share, and maybe that's more like a teaser, if you will, Nelson, is a quality which I think winning teams have, because we all know in sales uh, that you don't win alone. There are a lot of people who work with you to make you win. And I'll take you back to the start of your own career, where you began, personally as a techie, and then became a sales guy. So you know the role that pre-sales, solutioning teams, bidding teams, the senior leadership team, and even your colleagues who kind of come in along with you to cheer you up, play an important role when your chips are down and they put their shoulders around you. I think one of the important qualities which winning teams exhibit is a very high CQ quotient. I know everyone knows what's IQ, I know everyone knows what's EQ, but I think one quotient which is greater than IQ plus EQ is CQ. And CQ is collaboration quotient. How do we collaborate together to create a winning business? And my message to everyone in sales has been, you can lose a deal, you can win a deal alone, but never lose a deal alone. Bring whoever you need to bring into the deal. Let's lose the deal together. There is no shame in it. You want to win, you know you are winning, by all means, don't involve anyone, just go bring the deal home. Bring the PO, but don't lose alone. Because I find many sales guys quietly will lose a deal. They know they are losing. They don't want to tell people. It's because they believe that the image that they have created, that they are great sales guys, they never lose. That image will get tarnished. That's not good enough. We are not here to create or tarnish images. We are not here to win or fight elections, right? We are here to win business. So, my request to everyone in sales is, don't feel shy to bring in colleagues if you think you're losing a deal. Let all of us put our collective minds together. And believe me, you will find that the power of CQ is greater than IQ plus EQ. And I'm sure that we'll talk about these war stories in some of our future episodes. But that's just one additional comment that I wanted to share with you, Nelson, in addition to the other two that I've shared earlier.
Wonderful, wonderful, Manoj. There is Pragnesh asking. Sunil says, "I thought CQ is commit quotient." Um, so Manoj, Pragnesh is asking, what criteria should we prioritize to qualify a suspect early without wasting time and energy of sales champ as well as the company on
Yes.
low intent leads, early stage qualification tricks. I have an answer for that, but I would love for you to kind of go first.
Sure. And I'm going to make it very simple. Thanks, Pragnesh, for asking. This is a golden question. It's a question which I love, because I find that a lot of people come to me and tell me deals are not closing, customer is ghosting me, the sales cycle is taking forever, etc., etc. And the fact is that we have not really done the first step right, which is the question you asked: how do we qualify? There are many techniques for qualification, but the one which I found, which is easily understandable and something that each one of us can implement and execute very quickly, is something that I call BANT. And this is a well known technique used by many organizations. Unfortunately, many salespeople don't honestly do BANT qualification, and that's where you get lost. So, BANT is about knowing the budget of the customer, knowing who the authority is and engaging with the authority, who's going to be a key part of the decision making, understanding that there is a genuine need that the customer has, and having an idea of the timeline in which the customer is going to close. So BANNT, I think that is the acronym for BANT. Very, very important to understand these four elements. And if these are well understood, well documented, and you can check the boxes on all of these four, then of course you qualify the prospect subject to the fact that you believe that you have the bandwidth to pursue this opportunity. Why many salespeople bring leads in and qualify them even when they don't meet the band criterion, frankly, is because of the fear that they have that their pipeline is not strong enough. So they want to create this false sense that we have a big pipeline, and pipeline inflation is something that I have seen happening all the time in
all the time.
organizations. In fact, I was just talking to somebody who told me that the sales team comes in and says that, look, there is a 50 crores opportunity. Finally, it turns out to be 50 lakhs. So all kinds of things happen. So I think it's very, very important to make sure that the pipeline is refreshed, it is honest, the deals are qualified properly using the band criterion. And if we follow the science of bands, band is a science. If you follow the science of band accurately, you're on to a great start.
Thank you, Manoj.
Nelson, love
Thank
for
you.
you to add on to this.
Sure, sure. So, Pragnesh, thank you for asking that question. And Manojji, thank you for that wonderful rejoinder there on what one needs to focus on, get those ticks in the box. Great. Um, I think, Manoj, the biggest problem where our sales fraternity slips through the cracks, where it all happens is you get onto this call with a prospect, okay, or even I wouldn't even call it a prospect; it's a suspect. Get on a call, you're talking to the person. I am so and so. I help so and so people from so and so organizations to solve their business problem, and then immediately the person on the other side of the line kind of uh, teases you into saying, hey, can I see your presentation? Now I know for a fact, Manoj, that many organizations, this is a celebrated milestone. Hey, presentation ke liye bula rahe hain. And then we take so much of pride, and we're so happy that the customer is calling you for a presentation. But we do not realize that you first need to have several set of questions answered from the customer, whether it fits into your perfect ICP, right? Your ideal customer profile. And that's where it all goes wrong. I mean, then you kind of show the presentation, you say, hey, I like that green color on your slide. It's so beautiful, it's so soothing. I mean, what a presentation, man. Okay, we'll get back to you. And for me, we'll get back to you is as good as saying get lost from here. The problem is, you get to know, the customer gets to know about you and what your company does without bringing in the context of the problem that they have on hand. And there has been no conversation about what you guys can do to solve our business problem, right? So the entire exploratory phase gets missed out, Manoj, right? And you and I know this for a fact. If you are not going to have an exploratory conversation, that means you are not yet ready to submit a presentation deck, or worse, hey, proposal भेज दो, हम लोग उसको review करेंगे. You send us a proposal and we will review it. Disaster, right? And then what happens? You get ghosted. And then you follow up, and the guy says, hey, I mean, we're still not decided. We don't think we have the money. So that's where your band gets in, right? Do they have a budget? You don't know. Do they have the authority? Don't know. Do they have a need? God alone knows. I have the need to make this call, and that's where it all started.
Absolutely.
Right? And timeline? Oh, I mean, how does it matter whether it's Diwali or, I mean, like you said, I have to fill something in my pipeline. So, yeah, that false sense. I mean, I think that's a great takeaway, Manoj. The false sense that salespeople like us we tend to do is something that we should completely get rid of. I mean, that's a complete no-no, and we're doing basically disservice to ourselves, right? So I mean, nobody else,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
us ourselves. Yeah.
I
So
think, again, sorry for butting in, but I think Prageet's asked a question saying, hey, but how does one know about the budget? Because that's something that customers are not openly going to share. I think one has to read the tea leaves, understand what are the priorities of the business, which are very well known. And if your value proposition and offering play into any of the priorities, then you can obliquely ask the customer saying, hey, I know that there is a tremendous emphasis that you're placing in terms of reducing your carbon footprint, as an example. And what we are doing here kind of plays to this. Now, of course, you have to spend money to be able to drive efficiency around carbon footprint. And our solution is fantastic. Just in a couple of crores or a couple of million or $1 million, you'll be able to actually see a significant return on investment, which is less than 12 months. Then you watch the face of the customer, right? If the customer turns pink and red when you say $1 million, right, then you know that this is something above. And then you say, so I'd like your feedback. Do you think what I'm saying is right? And he might say, yeah, yeah, but $1 million is like way too much. I know people who can offer this for 100K. And then right, whether your value proposition is going to cut it or not. You can have a discussion. Now, if the guy is thinking about 100K, your solution's $1 million, should you really be spending time there or not? Otherwise, respectfully, bow out, or come out with a lighter version of the solution, which you can fit in and make money in 100K. So there are many ways of really asking the question. Also, many organizations are very public about their capex plans, particularly public companies. They have to share what is a capex plan. I mean, the shareholders want to know, right? What is your capex plan? Otherwise,
right.
give the money back to me in the form of dividends. And I would encourage everyone in sales to go and attend the quarterly earnings calls of all public companies that are on
Great point,
their
Manoj.
that are really on their prospect list. So there are many, many ways. Social media, there's lots of information which is available out there. So through primary research, secondary research, asking a few questions intelligently, Prageet, I think we can actually go and do that. So thanks, Prageet, for asking that one. Prageet's a very dear friend of mine, and works in the European geography. Great to get to hear from him today. And I know, pun not intended, I know we're at the end of our time, Nelson, but I do want to react on a comment that Sunil Solanki, another old friend of mine, made. The moment he heard CQ from me, what struck him was, if Manoj is talking about C, it must be commit. So for once, I've disappointed him that it's not commit, right? And I know
Everyone
he's
knows
thinking
that,
commit.
Manoj. If you're in a pipeline review, Manoj ji पूछने वाले हैं commit कितना है?
पूछने
What is
वाले
the
हैं.
blood commit?
And yeah, and as you know, because tomorrow is a holiday, normally commit calls are on Friday, but since tomorrow is a holiday, you must have thought this commit is happening on Thursday evening, and the time is also right. We started this at 6:30 in the evening, which is the time for all commit calls. So Sunil, very sorry to disappoint you. This time I did a bit of a twist and called it the collaboration quotient. As you can see that as your hair grays, you also learn a new vocabulary.
Fantastic. It has been incredible, Manoj. I just wanted to add on the previous one. I just wanted to add a small rejoinder on budget. The one simple thing that we talk about is the rule of ratios, Manoj. I mean, and I think every salesperson should know this equation. It's a simple equation. Don't need to learn very complex algebra to figure this out, right? So the size of the problem that you are trying to solve for the customer, the cost of your solution, whatever is the cost of your solution, right? And the size of the problem that the customer has. I mean, if it is anything more than double of the cost of the solution, then there is a possibility that you can do something on this particular issue and help solve the problem for the customer. But if, let's say, the cost of your solution is $1 million and the size of the problem is 100K, there is no freaking way that the customer is ever going to make you stand in outside the door, right? And most salespeople make this fundamental mistake of not having to be able to assess this situation. Go blind. Oh, pipeline badani hai. I want to add to my pipeline. I'm really stuck, and so I'll just bring in something and put that one more line item, one more CRM ID, and get away for this times. You talked about the sales pipeline review, Manoj, and I think many people, in fact, the beauty is most CRMs, did you know this, Manoj? I'm sure you know that most CRMs get updated just an hour before a weekly pipeline call.
Yeah,
i'll
but then
I'll wind up.
but the fact is, sales ops has pulled out the report in the morning. So all of the stuff they have done in the last 1 hour does not reflect when they come on the review call. So they're going to get slammed very badly, irrespective, if they start doing things at the last 1 hour. And I think that is the reality. So that's why everyone is told at least update 1 day before, so that the goodness of the work that you have done reflects, and you don't look bad in front of all the rest of your colleagues. Everyone in sales knows this, but yet I know there are guys who like to do things at the very last minute. I know that we are absolutely at the end of our time together. My friend Maha has asked a question on, can Gen AI help us in terms of really qualifying a prospect as far as Bant is concerned? I'm sure, Maha, yes, if you're able to share the organization and your product with Gen AI, give that input, give that prompt, and then ask, who could potentially be the authority who's going to make a decision. You might get a good answer. So I have not tried it, but now that you asked the question, Ma, I'm certain that I'm going to try and see. But then we have to educate, and we have to give the right prompts to Gen AI before
Yeah.
we get the response. If we may not get a perfect response, but I think it's worth trying. At least you might get an oblique reference to something that you may not have thought of. But thanks, Ma, for bringing it up, and I'm sure to try this one.
And one word of caution, Maha, if I may add, um, we have to be a bit careful if we are going to leverage Gen AI, or I mean, if it's, it to be very specific, Chat GPT, to be able to do any of this or any other of those tools. Uh, Make sure that we validate some of this information with humans on the other side. If you rely entirely on Gen AI for the exploratory piece, you are going to sit across the table with some stakeholder from that other side of the uh, customer, on the customer side, and you're going to validate what you have understood from your Chat GPT response that you got. And if you skip that step, you risk being guided by something that was not validated. So that will be my humble suggestion. Please keep that in mind, and of course use ChatGPT or any other Gen AI tools, as long as it enables you, not does not disable you from your selling process.
Nelson, I think you're just trying to find a way to make sure sales guys still have a job.
Yes. As we know it, sales as a profession is not dying yet, Manoj. Not until there is a robo on this side talking to a robo on the other side and taking decisions and filling up whatever we saw in the budget sheet, right? So I think wonderful, Manoj. I think
Thank you,
great
Nelson.
session. Honestly, I was not sure when you said, Nelson, let's go unscripted, but I enjoyed this thoroughly, and I think you did as well, right, Manoj? This is something really brilliant.
Thank you very much, Nelson. And on behalf of both of us, I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who's taken time to join us this evening. And for those who couldn't, I'm sure they'll get the opportunity of viewing this offline. And would love to get your feedback, guys. Please do send in your comments. Next time, Nelson and I are next time we are together, we'd love to take your questions and kick the next unscripted sales cast forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Manoj. Great session. I think loved it. Until we meet again on the Salescast. Bye, guys. Over and out.
Thank you.